Hey everyone, this is Stellar Firefly, and today I bring you how to set up your brand spanking new GTX Gaming DayZ All-in-One Server. This clearly is for those of you who have just recently purchased a DayZ All-in-One Server from GTX Gaming, and you're just itching to get it up and running. But maybe you're a bit new to the whole running a game server thing, and you want a bit of help to get things set up quickly and without hassle. Or maybe you want to just make sure that you have everything covered and that you didn't miss anything. Or perhaps you simply want a brief overview of the basics of your brand new server. Well then, sit back and relax because this video is for you. In this tutorial, we will cover 1. Your introductory email and logins. 2. The very minimum you need to do to get that server up and running. 3. Basic server configuration, such as changing its name, setting a password, modifying basic settings, and choosing different mods and maps. 4. Getting your scheduled restart set up. And 5. Where to go if you encounter problems or otherwise need further assistance. There is of course much more that can be done to further customize your server, but these are the very basics that all new server admins should know about to both get their players in the game and to keep their server running along happily and smoothly. Let's get started. So you just purchased your own DayZ All-in-One Server from GTX Gaming, and soon after you received an email notification that your server is ready to go. Sweet. Your email probably looks something like this, though of course it didn't have black and yellow caution lines every time it says the word password. This is the first thing and perhaps the most important thing that all admins need to remember, and although it should go without saying, it also warrants repeating. Never give any of your passwords to anyone, not unless you want to give them full access to your server because that's exactly what they'll have. But also, keep this email around in a secure place so that you don't forget the logins and passwords yourself, otherwise you won't have access to your server anymore. The two pieces of information that you'll need for your basic setup are the first two sections here, your tcadmin control panel login and your server's IP and port number. This IP and port number are what you'll give to your players so that they can connect directly to your server or add it as one of their favorite servers. The FTP and database logins are needed to perform more advanced operations with your server, and they won't be needed for this tutorial. But as mentioned, keep all of this info around in a secure place. You may just get good enough someday to do these advanced things. Finally, at the very bottom, there are some basic instructions that you should follow. These are exactly what we'll be doing next. So let's get the server up and running. The very first thing you'll want to do is to fire up your web browser and go to that tcadmin control panel URL that was in your email. Use the username and password from the email to log in. This is your tcadmin control panel. It doesn't look like much at first, but that's because we haven't gone into any particular section yet. The bulk of your controls will be in the Game Services section, so click on that. Now we see the server's information at the very top, including its current status. And we see a bunch of buttons at the bottom. These are the controls that you will be using to control and modify your server. But first things first, just as the email said, you'll notice that the server status shows it as running. It isn't really, or at least not functionally, but the first thing you need to do is to click on the Stop button to shut it down completely. That is one very important idea for you as a new admin to always keep in mind. You cannot make changes to a running server, at least not for the most part. When in doubt, stop your server before making any changes or customizations to it, and then start it up again after those changes are complete. Of course, if your server is filled with players at the time, then it would be courteous of you to warn them before you shut down your server. The second thing that the email told us to do was to choose our mod, so let's do that now. Click on the Mod Manager icon in your tcadmin control panel. For this tutorial, our goal will be to install the Overclock Release 2 mod running on the Chernarus map. Don't worry, we'll also go through the steps to use other maps later. However, with just a little bit of reading, we can see that in order to install the Overclock R2 mod, we first need to install and then uninstall the Epic mod. And then it says we need to select Overclock and the @server start bat configuration file. Alright, let's do this. First, click the install link for the DayZ Epic mod, and then just wait a bit. It really is just a one-click install system. So that you don't get totally bored, we'll pause this video and come back when it's done. And it's finished. Now, if we wanted to install only the Epic mod, then we'd be done with this step anyways, and we'd just move on to the next step, which is basically just pressing the on button. But our goal in this tutorial is to set up the Overclock mod, which is a hybrid of both the Epic and Overwatch mods. So just like it said in the instructions that we read earlier, we need to uninstall Epic and then install Overclock. So next, we click on the uninstall link for the Epic mod. And then, just like before, we simply wait a little bit while the server does all the work for us. After Epic finishes uninstalling, we click the install link for Overclock and then let it finish installing. And done. It even gives us a little reminder that we have to select Overclock in the @serverstart.bat configuration, so let's do it. Go back out to the Game Services section and click on the Configuration Files icon. Find the @startserver.bat configuration file and click on the Configuration Editor link across from it. And yes, it did say server start the last few times, but it says start server here. It's what they really meant to say. Don't worry. In the primary command line drop-down, make sure that DayZ Overclock is selected. Then, press the Save button at the top. Wait a few seconds and make sure that it says the file has been saved. The server is now correctly configured to start up as an Overclock server. And we're done. I told you it was easy. Just head back to the Game Services section and, at the very top, click on the Start button to start up your new server. At this point, I recommend that you actually try to connect to your server. Use the IP and port numbers that you saw earlier in your email. It may still be generic and not yet customized for you, but it should allow you to connect and play. So let's make sure that it does before moving on. Now that we've verified that the server's working, let's tailor it a bit to make it unique and get it running the way we want. First, remember to go to the Game Services section and press Stop to shut down the server. We can't make changes to a running server. Then, click on the Configuration Files icon. Here you can see a list of all the different configuration files associated with your server. We're already familiar with the @startserver.bat file at the very bottom, but there are two others that deal with a very basic configuration of your server and that we'll investigate in this tutorial. These are the first two files in the list: config.cfg, our basic server settings, and dayzconfig.arma2oa profile, our advanced server settings. First, let's find config.cfg, basic server settings, and click on the Configuration Editor link across from it. As you can see, here's where we set most of our basic server settings. The hostname is how our server appears to the various methods that players use to list available games. So let's change it to uniquely identify our server. If you want to host a public server that allows anybody to join, then leave the server password field blank. If a password's set here, then you'll run a private server, and anybody who wants to play will need that password. The difficulty you may set to recruit, regular, or veteran. It's your choice. For the mission map, don't change it here, or at least not only here. Switching your server to another map requires a couple of other steps, but don't worry, we'll be covering them later in this tutorial. The message of the day, or MOTD, are the lines of text that are shown to players as they spawn into the game. Feel free to set them to anything you want, like something that welcomes them to your server, points them to your website if you have one, or lays down some basic ground rules. For the joining rules section, I strongly recommend that you keep the kick duplicate GUIDs option enabled to prevent unsavory types from trying to hack or cheat on your server. The same thing goes for the verify signatures option. Keep it enabled unless you have a good reason not to. The MOTD interval you can set to your liking. It just defines how long it waits before it shows each line in the message of the day. For the in-game settings section, this will allow you to disable voice chat if you don't want voice comms to affect your server, or you're tired of idiots spamming it with loud music or obnoxious noises. For the Enable Battle Eye option, I strongly recommend keeping that enabled to help protect your server against cheaters and hacks, and also because there are other useful features that require a functional Battle Eye client. Don't forget to press the Save button at the very top after you make all your changes, and then wait to make sure that it says the changes are saved. Next, let's take a look at the DayZ Config.arma2OA profile, or Advanced Server Settings. Find it in the list and then click on the Configuration Editor link across from it. Here's where you can turn various gameplay settings on or off. I personally like to turn off the crosshair and waypoints, but hey, it's your server, so set these all to your own taste. Again, don't forget to press the Save button at the very top, and then wait to make sure that it says the changes were saved. Okay, that was simple. Now let's see how to change the map, which is actually also really simple. The thing to remember is that to change the map, the changes need to be made in 3 places for it to work correctly. First, go back to the Game Services section and click on the Map Packs icon. At the very top is the Map Pack drop-down menu, where you may select the map of your choice. For this tutorial, we'll switch to the Namalsk map, so we'll select it here. Below the drop-down, you'll find some instructions telling you what else needs to be done to switch maps, which we'll be doing in just a bit. You'll also see some instructions and screenshots about how to connect to a server running different maps. The client connection instructions won't be covered in this video tutorial because we're focused on the server side of things here. But check out my other GTX server videos for a client-side connection tutorial. For now, scroll all the way over to the bottom, and you'll see a checkbox marked Overwrite Existing Files. This doesn't matter for now because this is the first time we're installing the Namalsk map. But if later on you find yourself switching between maps every so often, this will allow you to perform a clean reinstallation of a map. Scroll all the way back to the top and click on the Install button. Then just wait until the map is automatically installed for you. One extra note though. Even though the processing dialog reaches 100% and it says that the map pack is installed, don't close it yourself. Just wait another minute and it'll close itself, which means that the map files were installed. Now the other 2 places we need to change to properly tell our server the map we're using. Go back to the Game Services section and click on the Configuration Files icon. Find the config.cfg file, or Basic Server Settings, and click on the Configuration Editor link across from it. Change the Mission Map drop-down to the proper map, and then press the Save button at the top. Finally, find the @start_server.bat file and click on the Configuration Editor link across from it. Change the primary command line drop-down to the proper map, and then press the Save button at the top. That's it. Those were the 2 places. Now you can go back out to Game Services and fire up your server again with the Start button. Bam! Customized server on a custom map. And just like before, I recommend at this point that you connect to your server again just to make sure that it's up and running as expected. The last bit of server setup that we'll discuss in this tutorial is setting up automatic restarts. If you're new to the whole DayZ server administration thing, you need to know that DayZ servers need regular restarts in order to continue running smoothly. The more players who use your server and the more active they are, then the more often you may need to restart it. You obviously don't want to be logging in every 6 or 8 hours all day every day, and so we'll schedule some automatic restart tasks. The first thing you should do before setting up any tasks at all is to first go to your TC Admin control panel and click on My Profile to go to that section. Along with all of your personal information, you'll also see at the very bottom a time zone drop-down. GTX Gaming strongly recommends that you set this time zone drop-down to the UTC time zone. The TC Admin control panel is actually time zone aware, and it does work okay with other time zones. But any tasks or tools external to it may or may not. So in order to avoid any confusion from things not happening at the correct time, set your time zone to UTC and translate all of your times into UTC, or otherwise known as GMT time. Doing this may seem like a hassle at first, but it can save you a lot of confusion and headaches in the long term. Don't forget to press the Save button at the very top after you change it. First, we need to install the Auto Restart system. Go to the Game Services section in your TC Admin control panel and shut down your server. Then click on the Mod Manager icon. Down in the GTX Gaming Exclusive Tools section, you'll see the Auto Restart System. Just click on the Install link next to it and wait a bit while the Auto Restart System is installed for you. It'll only take a minute. Now let's set up the automatic restart tasks. Go to the Game Services section in your TC Admin control panel and shut down your server. Then click on the Scheduled Tasks tab at the very top. To make a new task, we must first click on the New button at the top. For the task type, make sure to select Restart in 15 minutes. The default scheduled restart also works, but it'll restart your server without sending any warnings to the players. And trust me, they will hate you for that. So be sure to select Restart in 15 minutes to send out warnings up to 15 minutes ahead of time. Then click on the new link right below it. My personal preference with setting scheduled restarts is for the server to restart at specific times of day. That way the players can know exactly when to expect them. The best way to do this is to create a single task for each restart during the day. This prevents an effect known as timing drift, where a task can slowly happen earlier and earlier, or later and later, as the days go by. Single tasks for specific times of day that are reset every day will be immune to drift. The only drawback is that we have to create multiple tasks, but that's really no big deal. For this example, let's restart our server every 8 hours at exactly 2 a.m., 10 a.m., and 6 p.m. every day, but in my local time. So this first task we'll call Daily 2 a.m. Restart, and obviously keep it enabled or it won't happen. For the type, select Daily. Now we want it to happen at 2 a.m. local time, but I'm personally in the Pacific time zone, which is -7, or 7 hours behind UTC. So I just add 7 hours, which means I want it to happen at 9 a.m. UTC. So in the start field, I set it to the date and time when 9 a.m. UTC will occur, which is tomorrow at 9 a.m. You can use the calendar and clock buttons next to the field, or you can just type the values in manually. One little thing to watch out for though, if you use the calendar icon to change the date, then the time value will be reset and you may have to change it again. So change the date first, and then set the time. If you see a warning icon, then you're specifying an invalid date and time. Most of the time this will happen because you're trying to create an event for a date and time that's already passed. Remember, if 9 a.m. has already happened for today, then you need to set it for 9 a.m. tomorrow. We'll leave the Recur Every field at 1 days and the Repeat Task checkbox turned off, because this is already set to be a daily task. Put in some notes if you'd like, and then press the Save button at the top. If you go back to your Scheduled Tasks tab, then you can see the task listed there. Now all we have to do is repeat these steps 2 more times, once for the 10 a.m. restart and once for the 6 p.m. restart. Remember to translate them to UTC if you need to. Because we're at -7 UTC, we added 7 hours, so that our 10 a.m. restart is scheduled for 5 p.m. UTC, and our 6 p.m. restart is scheduled for 1 a.m. UTC. And that's it for scheduled restarts. You can fire up your server once again and you're good to go. As always, try connecting to your server to make sure things are up and running correctly. If you encounter any problems while setting up your new GTX Gaming DayZ All-in-One Server, then the best thing to do at first is to check out the GTX Gaming forums. Do a quick search and try to find out if there's any currently known bugs or issues, and if others may have encountered the same problems as yourself. You may be able to quickly find a solution this way. If that fails, then send GTX Gaming a support ticket by clicking on the Contact Support icon in your TCAdmin control panel. They are very, very good about responding to customer support issues in a timely manner. And that's it for this video tutorial. Thank you all for watching. Feel free to like or subscribe if you feel so inclined. Enjoy your awesome new DayZ server, and as always, good luck, have fun, and watch your back.